Hey guys, it's Jaitni, your wellness coach. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this week's video, I talk about ways to know your menstrual cycle and manage it so that you can actually embrace this part of your health instead of resenting it. So this video is for everyone, regardless of your gender or your sexual orientation. This is knowledge that everyone should have, because it's about time that we start talking about this openly and normalize these conversations. Women's health should not be spoken in whispers or discussed behind closed doors. So that is why this topic is really important and applicable to everybody out there. So the video is broken into two parts. This week, I'm going to share the top 3 ways, and then next week, I'll be covering the other 3 tips that I have when it comes to knowing and managing your menstrual cycle. So let's start with tip number 1. The most important thing to understand your symptoms and to manage them is to track them. If you don't know what they are and when they occur, you're not going to know what to do with them. So tracking, very important. And when I say tracking, I mean track everything. And yes, it's tedious the first few times, but I would say do it for 3 to 6 months. That way you start to notice any patterns. You also start to notice if there's any kind of irregularity. Because if there is, you definitely want to get it checked out. So this serves multiple purposes. You also understand, how to start connecting the dots. What is happening when and how you can handle it. So when it comes to tracking, you want to track your diet, you want to track your physical activity, you want to track your sleep, your overall lifestyle, you want to track your cravings, you want to definitely track your moods, because a lot of times those mood swings are associated with where we are in our menstrual cycle. So at least those are some of the basics that you want to cover. Now, there are lots of different ways to do this. You could do it manually. You can do it on your phone. There are lots of apps out there. I use an app called Flow. That's F-L-O, very apt name. And there are paid apps and free apps. Now with Flow, initially I was on the premium version because I did want all the details, and I really enjoyed looking at the monthly summary, because that's when I wanted to better understand my cycle and my symptoms. Today I use the free version. I mainly use it to log, a lot of the basics that I talked about earlier, because I have a pretty good handle on my cycle and the different symptoms that occur throughout the month. So you choose and you do you. Now, tip number 2 is really understanding the different phases of your cycle. So yes, your cycle is not just your period. There's a lot more to it. It's broken down into 4 phases. The first phase, obviously, is menstruation. It's followed by the follicular phase, and then you have ovulation, and then you have the luteal phase. Now, the menstruation phase, usually is 3 to 7 days. The follicular phase could go all the way up to 14 days. Then you have ovulation for a few days, and then the luteal phase could be anywhere from 7 to 14 days leading up to your period. So as you can tell, it's not very cut and dry when it comes to the time frame, but this is the typical order, and there's definitely some overlap with the different phases. Why is this important? Because each phase has a different demand of your body. And really knowing which phase you're in is going to help you give it the most and make the most of that phase. Now, tip number 3 is what we call cycle syncing. So in this part, we're going to focus on the nutrition side of it. So cycle syncing the foods is really aligning your diet with the different phases of your cycle that I just shared in tip number 2. So this is important because it can just make it or break it for you. It can make a huge difference when you eat the right kind of foods based on the cycle. So let's start with menstruation. Obviously, you're bleeding, you're losing iron from your system, from your body. So you want to eat iron-rich foods. And those are going to be your dark, leafy, green vegetables, like spinach, kale. Those are the ones you want to go for. If you eat meat, you can also do lean beef or chicken. Kidney beans are another great option. You can also have dates. That's what I do personally. I do have dates during my cycle, because all of this is going to replenish the iron that you're losing. Now, this is followed by the follicular phase. So in this phase, your body is getting ready to develop the egg, which is either going to be released or turn into a pregnancy. So your body is doing some work, and your body is probably going to need carbs. And that's fine. Carbs get a bad rap, but carbs are great, as long as you choose complex carbs. So if you feel like you need the carbs, that's fine. Choose your veggies, choose your fruits. You can go for beans, legumes, all of that stuff is great. What you want to avoid really is the junk food, the processed food, anything that has too much sugar in it. You want to stay away from that because these complex carbs will really help you. And then this is followed by the ovulation phase. Now, during ovulation, your body, again, is doing quite a bit of work. This is when you have a high chance of getting pregnant. So those are the kind of foods that you want to eat, even if you will not get pregnant or don't get pregnant. So with ovulation, again, there's going to be carbs. Choose complex carbs, like I just shared. Try to stay away from the processed food, the junk food. With ovulation also, you want to make sure that you're getting your antioxidants. So you can choose, foods like blueberries, blackberries. You also want to make sure that you're getting your essential fatty acids. So if you eat seafood, go for salmon. If you're vegetarian like myself, you may choose walnuts, or you may choose some chia seeds. So those are your options. And then we get to the last phase. That is the luteal phase. So in this phase, you may experience, tiredness. You may experience lethargy, having some mood swings, feeling down, just not feeling great in your body. You may experience bloating. You may also experience tender breasts. So there are a lot of these symptoms. Basically, you wish you could be outside your body, right? It's not fun to be in this phase all the time. Or every single month for 7 to 14 days. But you can make the most of it, and your diet can make a huge difference to a lot of these symptoms. So during this phase, your body's a little tired. It's done the work during the follicular phase and the ovulatory phase. So it's starting to slow down. It's starting to hunker down and get ready for whatever is to come, whether that's a pregnancy or whether that's your period. So during this time, you will crave carbs. It's just, there's no question about it. It's very normal. Give your body what it needs. But again, with carbs, you have a choice. Choose those complex carbs. Choose the vegetables that you really like. Choose what's in season so you're not getting bored and eating the same thing every single month during this phase. You can do the same thing with fruits. Try seasonal fruits. Besides fruits and veggies, you can also have your beans, your legumes. Those are great options. Now, besides the complex carbs, there's some other things that you need to give your body. I mentioned the mood and the mood swings. You may start to feel a little low and down and out of it, and that's okay. Try and choose some magnesium-rich foods. So that's going to be dark chocolate, or you can even try some seeds like pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds. And then add calcium foods to this phase as well. So an example of that could be tofu. Now, what I've done is I've just given you a glimpse into some of the foods that you can eat per phase. There is a lot of material out there online and everywhere else. I can provide it to you as well if you reach out to me directly. But there are a lot of charts, there are a lot of infographics that basically break down and give you a list of all the foods that are recommended by the different phases. So what I gave you is just some essentials, the real vitamins that you need, the real nutrients that you need, what you should be focusing on, especially by the different phases. A lot of the charts that are out there, they list out all the foods. It's vegetables and fruits, and if you're into meat, it also lists out meat and seafood. So definitely check that out. Or as I suggested, you can always reach out to me. Now, a couple of tips as you do this. Don't make it too complicated. It may seem overwhelming at first, but try and just make it a natural part of your routine, of your monthly routine. Turn it into a habit, let it be organic, and that's when you'll actually start to enjoy this process. And when you do it at least for 3 to 6 months, and I promise you, you will see such a huge positive difference. The other thing is, give your body what it needs. In some of these phases, as I said, your body is going to crave carbs. You don't need to have this all or nothing approach. You can always take the middle ground. What I mean by that is, during my luteal phase, I really crave pizza and pasta. That's my thing, especially spaghetti. So there were times when I just didn't deny myself. I was going to have that spaghetti, but I was mindful of the portion sizes, which is the same thing you can do. Pay attention to the portion control. And then the other side of this also is you can get creative and make the food option healthy. So going back to pasta, I would make the sauce at home because the sauces outside have a lot of preservatives and they're not necessarily healthy. I would also add lots of veggies to my pasta. That way I was at least getting my vegetable intake. And then the other thing was with the pasta, I would either choose spinach pasta or I would buy chickpea pasta, which again is less of an evil than the usual pasta that they sell. So those are some creative ways that you can still get what you want and still be healthy. Something else, as you start to track your cycle and learn more about your cycle, share this information with your significant other. It can really help the relationship. It's just going to strengthen the bond. A lot of times we're in a relationship and our significant other or our spouse is wondering, why, what's going on with her, what's up with her moods. There are a lot of questions and there isn't always clear understanding. So communicate this part, keep them in the loop, let them know which phase you're in, what you're experiencing. And once they learn, they'll be more aware of what's going on. I think that's something that we owe our partners when it comes to our period. So I hope you got something out of this. Really your period doesn't have to feel like a burden. Cycle syncing can make a huge difference to how you feel physically, mentally, and emotionally. So next week, I'll be sharing some other pointers that cover cycle syncing in regards to your emotional health and your physical activity. So I hope you join me then. So just to recap it, the 3 pointers I shared today were tracking. Make sure you're tracking everything, at least for the first few months. Number 2 is really understanding the different phases of your cycle. And then number 3 is cycle syncing the foods based on the different phases of your cycle. So thank you so much for stopping by and for giving me your time. If you want to learn more about what I do and how I help my clients with their wellness goals, check out my website. It's www.imperfectbodies.com. I would love to hear from you. Let me know if there is some other kind of content that has to do with wellness that you'd like me to cover. In the meantime, I hope you have a fabulous week, and I will catch you here next week. Thank you so much.